Welcome to the IU Sports Media Men's Basketball Talk Show. I'm Dylan Traeger, joined by the Hoosier Network's finest, Zach Horowitz, one of the beat reporters on the men's basketball team. Zach, it's been an interesting first start to the season for Darren DeVries, first start at IU. But how's it been for you? You've gotten to go to the United Center, Gamebridge. How have those games been for you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. These neutral site games, it's not exactly normal college basketball being at the home atmospheres and stuff, but Indiana basketball obviously has a huge alumni base. The United Center against Marquette, that was maybe you would think it could be a 50-50 split in terms of distances of the schools and stuff, but Indiana really dominated the crowd at there and as well as Indianapolis at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. It's really been a unique opportunity, and I've really grasped every single part of it.
So this IU team starts off 7-0, a really solid start. They get Power 5 wins, Marquette at the neutral site, and then they go ahead and beat Baylor too. I mean, they beat Baylor, they beat Kansas State, they have these good wins. They go out to Minnesota to open up Big Ten play, and Minnesota's without two starters, and they dropped that game, and it looked pretty rough. What did you see out of Indiana?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. This team is living and dying by the three-point shot, and that goes with Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson. I think those are your two guys that if you need a bucket, that's who you're going to go to. And if they're not on, it's going to be tough to win. You know, in those two games, they shot 28% from three-point, 32% from three-point in the next one. So those losses to Louisville and Minnesota, those are going to pile up if you just can't shoot the ball well enough.
And talking about the three-point struggles, things haven't gone their way. What do you think about when DeVries can turn to the bench? We've seen Nick Dorn, the transfer from Elon, and we've seen Trent Sisley, the freshman, both hitting a lot of threes. We've seen two games where Dorn has hit 4 or 5 threes off the bench. Like, what do those presences mean to DeVries in Indiana?
Yeah, right. I think Nick Dorn took a huge step this past game against Louisville. You know, they went down 16-0 early, really just playing from behind, and there's not much positive takeaways that you can get from that game. But Nick Dorn had 15 second-half points on 5 of 7 shooting from beyond the arc. So I think that's a big role that he can get into off the bench. You need a three-pointer. That's kind of a guy you need to go to. Trent Sisley as well. We've seen him rebound the basketball well, play in transition. So these are guys off the bench. You saw Josiah Miles play earlier in the season. He's kind of fallen out of the rotation a little bit now that Nick Dorn is healthy. And then Sam Alexis as well. You talk about him. He's playing a huge role off the bench and really getting starter minutes at the 5.
And I'm looking at Trent Sisley. This is a true freshman. He's been all 9 games off the bench. He's averaging 8 points and 4 rebounds. And I start to think, who was the last true freshman that's had this sort of impact? And the first name that comes to my mind is Jalen Hood-Schifino. And with Schifino, he only played at Indiana his freshman season. So Sisley could be a guy you get to keep him 2, 3, 4 years. And what do you think about his development if they can keep him for that long?
Right, yeah. I think it goes along with the development of the program. You start getting an in-state kid, a guy who wants to be here. This was a Mike Woodson guy, and he stayed even when Darren DeVries took the job. So this is a guy also now, he's coming off the bench. There's veteran leadership behind him. Specifically Tucker DeVries. That's a guy, they have a similar play style, and he's kind of helped Trent Sisley grow into his own. I think Sisley comes off the bench. He can score at the rim. He can score from beyond the arc. He rebounds the ball well. I think that's a guy that's big for himself right now and big for the program going forwards.
And looking at the size of the big, we knew this would be an issue going into the season. Indiana brought in Reed Bailey from Davidson, and they also brought in Sam Alexis from Florida. Bailey, the starting 5 in every game this year, has not looked big enough. Coming in, he's 6'10", 235. He looks undersized. And while Alexis has looked solid, he's only 6'9". I start to think ahead. What happens when Indiana plays Purdue, a 7'4" Daniel Jacobson, or Oregon? They've got Biddle, the 5th-year center, who's a big, strong guy. How do you think Indiana's going to stack up against these true bigs in Power 5 play and Big Ten play?
You used the word undersized, and that stood out for me looking at the roster of Darren DeVries bringing in portal guys. This is a team that has 0 returning players, right? So you have to go in the portal and get them. Reed Bailey comes from Davidson, a lower caliber school. He played really well there, but now you start to see in games against higher opponents, he's not playing as well. Sam Alexis was at Florida, a team that won the national championship, but he fell out of the rotation in the second half of the year. So these guys now, you're seeing them play against higher caliber teams, and like the Louisville game, They don't score as well. They're not rebounding as well. So this is a team aspect now where they need the guards to crash the glass as well to get these rebounds, just because the team is undersized. So I think going into Big Ten play, we've already seen one game. We'll see a couple going forwards. Penn State comes in to town pretty soon. I think rebounding the basketball is what's going to decide if they're a tournament team, if they're a bubble team, or if they're going to be out of this thing.
And you look back at the loss at Minnesota, I would have thought that's a game where Bailey can finally build the confidence, take a step up. Minnesota's missing their starting five. They've got a freshman, Grayson Grove, who's only about 6'9", 6'10", getting a bulk of those minutes. And they made Grayson Grove look like a veteran out there. It really just looked like Reed Bailey didn't fit in at the true five. I almost wonder what it would be like to play him at the four, but I think there'd be an issue kind of stacking him and Alexis in the lineup together.
I think one glaring thing that I saw from that game that is different than the others, Reed Bailey and Sam Alexis are bigs that have shot the ball well from the free throw line. And in that game against Minnesota, the team did not shoot well. They missed double-digit free throws, which hadn't happened in the past. So this is where, while we just spoke about this before, if you're undersized, that you can have these free throws, these shots to get you into the game, keep you in games. But Reed Bailey didn't play well enough, and they missed their free throws, so it kind of took them out of the game and played from behind. Just really not in tune, the whole team as a whole, and I think it starts with the big men.
And I'm looking at the way Coach DeVries really manages Bailey, and we see that Louisville game. DeVries took Bailey out within 90 seconds of the game. Kind of walk me through what you saw in general from that Louisville game.
Yeah, I think Louisville is a more physical team. They're athletic. Indiana has not seen anything like this so far. So I think Sam Alexis is just kind of a bigger guy, a more athletic guy. He can really be stronger than Reed Bailey is. So I think going to Alexis early was more of a defensive idea. But I think the bigs as a whole have not scored well offensively. They haven't done much, and that also comes – I like to speak on Connor Enright. So you have Enright and then either Bailey or Alexis who aren't adding too much on the offensive end. Then they fell behind 16-0 to open the ball game, and that just goes to the bigs. They were getting dominated, and Ryan Conwell and Isaac McNeely of Louisville just made their three-point shots at the beginning of that game.
And last one, looking ahead, Indiana hosts Penn State coming up this week. That's Indiana's first home conference game, Penn State's first conference game in general. Penn State coming in 8-1, a lot of cupcake, easy mid-major wins. Where do you think Indiana stacks up in that matchup?
Yeah, this should be a game that Indiana wins. I think that's pretty simple. Penn State's best player is a freshman, so he's going to come into a big atmosphere in I believe it's their first Big Ten game. The bigs, this is kind of a similar game as you saw in Minnesota. They're not going to be overmatched in terms of height. So you need those big men to step up. They need to make their free throws and simply make your three-point shots, because that's what we've seen. They shot under 35% in the last two losses. So that's really what's going to come down to. Hopefully they can make their shots and come out with their first Big Ten win of the Darren DeVries era.
Indiana hosts Penn State this Thursday at 8:30 p.m. tip-off right here at Assembly Hall, the first home conference game of the year for Darren DeVries. Thank you guys for joining us on the IU Sports Media Men's Basketball Talk Show.